So here we are in Skelmersdale, next to the M58 at Stuart Energy. Great family-run business, founded in 2017. It's really interesting, this business, because imagine setting up a business with your dad, which is what Mark Stuart and his brother did back in 2017. Their sisters now joined the business. Fantastic operation, operates UK-wide, really ambitious, high growth, great place to work. Mark's been shortlisted in the LDC's One to Watch list as well. So really looking forward to interviewing Mark Stuart, founder of Stuart Energy. So here we are at Stuart Energy. You can hear the M58 in the background. Delighted to be joined by Mark Stuart, one of the co-founders of the business. Mark, thank you for welcoming us.
No, thank you for coming, guys. It's great to see you.
First question we always start every episode of the Naked Founder podcast is the same, which is, what didn't they tell you about founding a business that you wish you'd known before?
Wow, crikey. It's got to be how much hard work it would be. But also, I wish someone had said to me, you need a huge tablespoon of luck to be successful.
It's interesting because your father, Fred, who we're hoping to speak to today, he founded a business before. Yeah. We're talking about generators. This is your business, generators, yeah. Power generators. He founded a business, he exited it. Yeah. You'd seen the long evenings, the early mornings that he'd done. But when you founded your own business, it was different.
Yeah, totally different. I think as a child, watching your father work so hard, he's not there a lot. You don't really understand, what effort he's putting in. Because yes, Dad's not at home, he's at work, but because you're not involved in the business because you're a small child, you don't really understand what that work entails until you actually develop, and then you go into the business yourself, then you exit the business and you start a business yourself. You actually realise he must have absolutely bled, sweat and tears. It's real hard work. Yeah. To get any business from a fledgling business to a successful business, to reach over the milestone of £1 million turnover, to get to multi-millions, is an incredible journey for anyone. And to do it with family is great, but it's so difficult and so hard.
When you founded Stuart Energy with your dad,
yeah,
and also your brother as well,
yeah,
it's a different sort of pressure.
Massive.
Because your dad's founded and exited a business.
Yes.
So what's the reality of founding Stuart Energy with your dad, Fred?
I think really it's the analogy of, you see great footballers which have sons that go into football, and you're never as good as your father. You won't be ever as good as your father. There's a bit of stigma attached to that. When you've had a successful father like we have, who's been very successful in power generation, let's not forget, he started his business with a B-Reg Escort van and £250 in his pocket, and he exited for high 8 figures.
Yeah.
That journey's incredible. To replicate that journey, we've got massive boots to fill. And for us, the pressure we felt, that pressure was immense. It's really intense. But, that pressure, you can either go one or two ways. You can either fold under the pressure or use it as fuel to really push yourself, to really become or try and fill his boots.
Do you think your dad and parents generally, do you think they hold their children to a higher standard?
Ultimately, yes, 100%. Fred always held Lee and I to a higher standard to the other employees, a much higher standard. He was stricter on us than anybody else, because we represent him at the end of the day. We represent his standards. So for us, it was a real hard battle and a real hard journey, and he was stricter on us. And now, as we go down this process where maybe our children want to come into the business, that's going to be even harder.
We're going to speak to your sister Jane.
Yes.
Okay, so she's not in the room. Okay, no. Do you think he held you and your brother to a higher standard than your sister?
I think it was different for my sister. He certainly held Lee and I to a very hard standard, very high standard. But this industry is a very much a muck and bullets type industry. It's construction, it's rough, it's tough. And I think the relationship of a father and a daughter is very different to a father and a son. Mm. And I think, although Jane is very, very good at what she does and she's very skilled at what she does, I don't think my dad wants her out on site, which I can understand from having a daughter myself. I wouldn't want my daughter to go out on site after seeing what it's like. But Jane is dynamic in her own way.
You use a phrase, and your sister uses a phrase, which comes from your dad, which is work or want.
Correct.
So from a very early age, if you want something, you got to work for it.
Yeah, massive. I mean, as I told you before, my father started a business with £200 in his pocket. And it was sheer hard work, determination, graft that got him to where he was to exit for 8 figures. And the figure and the feeling as when we were kids certainly is, you know, it was work or want. If you wanted something, you had to work for it. And that type of work ethic stuck with us, but not just from my dad. We're actually half Chinese and half Scottish. My dad's a Scotsman, mum's Chinese. Yeah. And that work ethic of the Chinese workforce, the Chinese work ethic is very strong generally in Chinese people. And a little story is that when I was going through school, we'd do homework for school, but we'd do homework for mum as well. And that wasn't just me, that was Lee and Jane. Yeah. We do homework for my mother as well, because she would always instill hard work into us to create, you know, to create excellence and to create good things.
This is the Naked Founder podcast, and I think the thing we're focusing in on is family-run businesses and founding a business with a parent. Yeah. You call your dad Fred outside in the business.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And you call him Dad outside the business.
Yeah.
How important is that demarcation? And is it simply a question of, if you were picking your dad up from home and driving in a car, you call him Dad all the way, you drive into the gates, and then he's Fred?
Yeah, of course.
And he wants that as well.
He wants that as well. He actually, he didn't start it. Lee and I came up with the idea to do that, because you've got to keep the lines very separate, because it's very easy in a family business to blur the lines. And when you blur the lines, external things that happen within the family come into the business. That's no good for anybody. You've got to keep the lines completely rigid, almost like tram lines. So at work he's Fred, but at home he's Dad. And that demarcation, that separation helps us massively, because if there's some decisions to be made which are tough, Fred makes the decision. It's not Dad who's made the decision, it's Fred. Whereas at home, he's Dad. You know, I have a saying sometimes, he's like a lion in the boardroom, he really is. But at home, he's a pussycat. Yeah. You know, and that's the difference. It's very much work mode, home mode. I think everyone has that to a certain extent.
Fred, this is the Naked Founder podcast. Yeah. It's the podcast where nothing's hidden. So we've spoken to your son, Mark, about founding a business with his brother and his dad, and the challenges and the highs and the lows that come with it. What was it like for you as an exited founder to go again and found a business with your children, and then for your daughter, Jane, to join the business?
Well, a bit of mixed feelings, really. Obviously, I had been under pressure from my wife. I had sort of retired multiple times, so she wasn't particularly too taken when I restarted. But again, once I got into it, I very much enjoyed it, and it was a challenge of setting the facility up again. What actually helped us is we didn't sort of try and poach customers from previous clients, but they did come to us, as did staff from companies that we'd ran in the past. And we just had a very good sort of work crew, and it really built from that.
A lot of people, sorry Fred, a lot of people talk about parents who work with their children and they hold their children to a higher standard. Do you think you hold your children to a higher standard than people who weren't your children?
Yeah, very much so. You know, I look at what I've done in the past. I look at what my parents tried to do in the past. You always want to go forward. You always want to improve. And I felt that that's what they had to do. And to be fair, they've done so. And obviously, we've got situations here where the Times has said we're one of the best companies to work for, small companies. And that's really through the hard work of really Mark and Lee, and more recently Jane, who's come in to help us on the marketing side, etc. So, yeah, I expect a lot of them, but I know they're well capable of doing it.
But it must give you a huge sense of satisfaction to see them develop, if you like, and step out of the shadow, your shadow.
Yeah, very much so. And I do accept, you know, with my age, you do reach the stage where your abilities fade a bit. I'm no different to anybody else. Perhaps I should have backed out by now. And that's something my wife is very strong about. But it is what it is. I'm very happy with the company. We're trying to expand the company, take it forward. That will now be 100% their task. This year, for various reasons, and in the early part of the year, I've got to move away from the business. But I'm very confident they can run it in a professional manner, keep expanding the business, and we have a great work crew here. The staff here are tremendous, and that's without patronising them. They are. We're lucky to have them. So I'm quite confident, happy going forward, and how I can adjust to not working, I found that a little bit challenging in 2016.
When you exited your last business?
When I exited the last business, 2016. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but it's where needs must, isn't it? So.
Okay. And just one final thing. Your children call you Fred in the business, and outside the business is Dad. You're completely cool with that?
Absolutely. I think if they're in the business here, and they could be in front of clients or that, and referring to me as Dad, there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't sound very professional. So it's better if they're actually calling me by my Christian name, isn't it?
Okay.
I've no doubt they use other names behind my back, but we'll settle with that.
Well, I haven't heard any, but Fred Stuart, thanks very much.
Not at all.
Okay, so Stuart Energy, which we'll come back to, you co-founded that.
Yeah.
Not the first business you founded, because when you were a teenager, you're a king golfer.
Yeah.
What do you play off at the moment?
So six under.
Play off 6. Okay, you had an idea, great idea, because anyone who's played golf knows how easy it is to lose golf balls.
Yeah.
Tell us the idea that you had.
So really, it's work on one. It goes back to that. At university, I was skint like most students are skint, but I didn't want to come out with massive load of student debt. And I'm a keen golfer, and at the time there's a golf ball, if golfers are watching this, called the Pro V1 golf ball come out, and they were very expensive at the time. They were like £4 a ball. This is 20 years ago, which was expensive. I couldn't afford to buy 12 balls effectively. So I thought there must be a way to get these cheaper. So then I realised in the States they were basically diving in lakes and pulling golf balls out as lake balls and selling them, which brought them to an idea. So I actually went on and found some keen scuba divers from the local sub-aqua club, and I said to them, if you dive in some lakes for me and do some water training and that, would you be able to pull the golf balls out for me? I thought there might be a market there, I could sell them. But that was the first idea. But then I approached local golf courses around the Leeds area, because I went to University of Leeds, and the Midlands, to see if we could do that. And the golf course managers weren't really interested. But what I did notice is that still water creates algae, and if you don't have the water turning aerated correctly, it can be damaged for the local wildlife. And one of the key components of that is you have a filter inside the water of the still water that keeps the air moving, but they clog up with weeds and grass, etc. So I created a solution. I said to the guys, the golf club manager, well, if we clean your ponds and clean the filters and do all the messy bit, can we take the golf balls out the lake while we're down there? Yeah, of course you can. So that's a solution to the problem for free. And then what I did is I gave them 300 golf balls out the find to sell in the pro shop. So they got revenue from it. So it snowballed overnight. And my first warehouse was my sister's garage, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, the interesting thing about that, though, is that what it teaches you about supply and demand.
Yeah.
It teaches you about selling the solution. It teaches you about cash flow.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, when you've made money, you always had an ambition, I think, to drive a Porsche.
Yeah.
That was always your ambition.
It was, yeah.
And after a few years of doing this, you could afford to buy a Porsche.
That's right.
But as soon as you drove out the showroom, you didn't feel like you thought you were going to feel.
Yeah. Touching on that, it was quite surreal, really. I got it. I was a young 24-year-old guy. I actually saved up enough money to buy one. And I think my father saw that. And he said, well, listen, you've saved up enough, but you're not going to buy it all. And he put 70% towards it because he saw me save up. And the rest of the 30% I put towards and the pay for insurance, etc. But it was quite funny. When I went to the dealership, I wasn't old enough to test drive one. I was 24. You have to be 25 at that time. And I went to Bolton, and I went out with as a passenger with the salesman. And we went round Bolton, and he came back and said, yeah, I'll have it. And he said, oh, great. It wasn't a brand new one. It was a second-hand one, about 12 months old. It was a good used one. And I got it. And all the lead up to getting the Porsche, I was driving down to the dealership in the night time, looking through the window at the car, etc. And I was, really excited. But then actually I got the car and I drove out the showroom and I thought I'd feel different, and I didn't. And I thought, that's strange. Why don't I feel different? And I think it's from an early age, I understood I was in love with the process and the game rather than the end result.
A lot of founders and entrepreneurs generally talk about, well, I asked them, how do you feel when that first £1 million dropped into your account?
Yeah.
When you'd exited a business? And they all said, I thought I would feel different. A lot of people spoke about the feeling that they sold a child, because what they loved was the chase.
Yeah.
And that's what you found. So let me take you back. You started Stuart Energy when?
2017.
So 2017 you started it with your brother and your dad. Okay, what problem were you trying to fix with Stuart Energy?
So when I sketched the logo on my kitchen table,
your wife couldn't have been happy when you sketched the logo on it.
she wasn't. And
yeah.
I thought to myself, where do we go from here? What do we do? And never in my dreams I think we were we are today as a brand when I sketched the logo. But I think the issue was service in the industry when we exited started to decline, and I didn't like that, because these people had helped the family do what we wanted to do and get where we wanted to be in life and have a nice things from being a very tough childhood. And I think where we saw that problems in the industry, we wanted to come and help the industry with sustainability, noise pollution, and we created certain products to do that.
So you started business in 2017, and a lot of people won't necessarily realise just how many developments you're in. So you go to Manchester, you see all these big cranes in the sky. If you go down to the bottom of the cranes, they're probably powered by a Stuart Energy generator.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay,
yeah.
and the sectors that you work in are what?
So we work in construction, we work in infrastructure, we work in nuclear, we work in rail, we work in hospitality, we work internationally. So it's anyone who requires power. So you look around, everyone requires electricity, everyone requires power. That's our game. So whoever requires power, that's the sectors we work in. You know, on another level, people don't realise that power, how essential power is to people. And you know, the only analogy I can put it is, if I took your mobile phone off you now, you'd be lost within 20 minutes. You'd be thinking, where's my phone?
Well, I got lost earlier today actually, and you had to find me.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you couldn't charge your phone because there's no electricity, it's the end of the world virtually. Oh,
yeah.
No, you need to find a charger or find a charger, and that is how essential power is to people. But it's only when it goes wrong does it highlight as an issue. You know, and we've got to be conscious of the fact here as a business that power, we can't be so egotistical to think that power is the most important thing on site, because the guys building skyscrapers, they've got problems on the roof, they've got problems with the building, with the walls. But when that problem of power goes off, it's a huge problem.
So here we are at Stuart Energy. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again,
Okay,
yeah.
got the M58 next door. Just give us a tour.
Hey guys.
So what's that step, Dan?
What's the step? Here we have the reception, where we've got, you know, several rugby shirts up, etc.
Who's your team, Mark?
Oh, my team's going to be Scotland.
Okay.
Because of our heritage.
Yeah.
Because our fathers are Scotland, so it's got to be Scotland for me.
Okay.
So you walk through, this is our general hire operations. A couple of guys on lunch at the moment. We have the kitchen behind us there. My sister sits in this office, which is strategic partnership. This is Chris, our operations director. Hello, Chris. This is Jess, one of our marketing ladies. And this is our accounts office. These ladies are, it's our accounts office in here. We're quite strict on health and safety, so I can only take you into the workshop to a certain point because you don't have safety footwear on. But come with me. It's our dirty workshop where we do a lot of major repairs. We just stop at here, guys. We do a lot of major repairs in here. We do a lot of, you know, mastery things. We get right into the carcass and deep inside the machines. Behind us here, we have a small store selection. Some of our stores equipment. We have our stores guy in here. Paul, which is, hello Paul. This is Paul, our stores guy. You see all the filters, etc. we need for machines on a daily basis.
One of the fascinating things about your story is that you mentioned it earlier. Your dad exited the previous business. Nice figure, nice check size.
Yeah.
You've given a lot of it away to support, you know, charities and stuff. But we'll talk about that later. But you treated Stuart Energy as a startup.
Yeah.
And you bootstrapped it. So I think I'm right in saying that when the furniture arrived in flat packs, you assembled it, didn't you?
Yeah, I built it. Yeah, I built it. It was all hands to the pump.
Yeah.
There was only 3 of us, my
Yeah.
dad, Liam, and myself. That was it. So if we weren't going to build it, who was going to build it? You know, so we built it. We hoovered the floor. We slept here overnight, Lee and I, you know, just to get things going. And really, yeah, we bootstrapped. Although we had our contacts, it was strange, Chris, because people still treated us as a brand new business. Although we had pedigree, we were unproven. Because we were the sons. We're not proven. Whereas Fred was proven, or Dad was proven. We weren't. So because we weren't proven, we found it very hard to get finance. We found it hard to get people to take us serious. You know, and it was literally all hands to the pump.
Yeah, so you start the business, you bootstrap it, no frills,
No.
just supplying great service.
Yeah.
I think the first order you got was for 2 machines in Birmingham.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
You couldn't get credit to buy the machines.
That's right. So we've been dealt with the company previously in our old business of Madden Stuart, giving them orders for 180 machines, well over £1 million, where they put on credit for us. We got an order in Birmingham. We went to the same supplier and said, we need 2 generators. I think it was £28,000 to buy the 2 generators, to put on hire for 6 months. Can we take them? We said, oh, you can take them, but you need to pay for them up front. Our first problem, we didn't have any cash. So although Fred was exited for a good figure, we still treat this business as a startup business. And I think that was to create adversity, because we're very big advocates that adversity creates creativity. When you hit with adversity, it makes you creative.
When your back's against the wall,
Yeah,
you have to think for yourself.
chips are down. That's it. When your back's against the wall, you either do one of the 2 things. You go down or you come out fighting.
So what was your solution to not being able to get these 2 machines on credit?
Well, we had to buy them.
Yeah.
And we had to scrape the money together to buy them. So, you know, we scraped the money together to buy them. We bought the 2 machines, but then that created another problem, because the week later, we took on an engineer to look after them, but we couldn't really afford his wages. We bought a van, we took him on, and then he said to us, we need fuel to put in the van. And I was like, okay, we'll just use your card. We don't have a fuel card, Mark. Okay. I couldn't ring Fred because Fred was on holiday. He disappeared. So I said to Lee, right, what have we got? So we had our personal credit cards and we put fuel in the van with our credit cards to get it going. And it snowballed from there.
There's a story that I like a lot. So your sister Jane,
Yeah.
when you started the business, she gave you her second-hand car.
Yeah.
Nice car, but you ended up hitting 140,000 miles on the clock. So you were basically going out selling. So you were driving all over the country.
Yeah.
What did that teach you as a founder of a business?
I thought, I'm going to get emotional talking about this now, Chris. So,
What about a second-hand car?
no, about the story. So obviously setting up the business, we want to set up the business, and it was, you know, we're going to bootstrap it. It was going to be, you know, Jane was still working somewhere else. We couldn't afford to bring Jane into the business straight away, quite frankly, because we didn't have enough money in the pot to bring Jane in, support another wage. Jane wanted to come in. Herself didn't have any money, effectively, because Dad's a Scot, he's quite frugal, or, you know, careful with his money, I should say. But she had a 6-year-old car. And she said to me, I haven't got money, Mark, but I'll give you something. So she gave me a 6-year-old car so I could go repping it. And that car means everything to me. So she gave up her own personal car to give it to me so we could go and rep. And I could go and rep. And with my brother, we both could go out and sell to actually get, you know, machines out on hire.
Was the fact that it was a second-hand car important?
No, the fact that it was her only mode of transport was important. She gave up her only mode of transport to give it to me, so we could further and better the life of the family.
But that's the family business, isn't it?
That's it.
That's the family business.
Yeah.
Your dad, you mentioned that your dad is careful with his money.
Yeah.
You know, my dad was careful with his money as well. I think parents, historically are as well. Great story when you set up the bank account, the business bank account for Stuart Energy in Barclays.
Yeah.
And then your dad went to a well-known coffee chain.
Yeah.
Might have been called Starbucks afterwards. Tell us what happened next.
I don't know how you know that story, but literally, I'll tell you what happened. We go to, in the very early days, we go to the bank to open a bank account. And we go to Barclays, and Fed deposits, you know, a bit of money into the bank account. I'm on a high because we've got a business bank account. We're starting a business. It's great. It's, you know, it's phenomenal. It's exciting. We had to go away from the bank for about an hour while they got the paperwork ready so we could be able to be signatures on the account. So we said, well, we'll go and get a coffee. So I'm thinking, great. Bear in mind, Fred's exited for an 8-figure sum, only a couple of years previous. We walk into this coffee shop, Starbucks, and all my friends are in there. In the queue, happen to be in the queue. Oh, Mark, how are you doing? Oh, great, thanks. So I'm proud as punch. Oh, I've just been to set a bank account up. We're going again and again in business and all that. And they're like, oh, well, you know, it's okay. Now, they know through the circles and friend circles what my dad's exited for. So they think, oh, it's okay for him. We get to the till. And I said, oh, can I have 2 lattes, please? And I think it's Starbucks is venti, grande, tall. And I said, and I thought, well, I know what Dad's like with coffee prices. I best go for grande size. I can't go for venti, he'll go mad.
Yeah.
And the lady said, oh, it's £7.60 for 2 coffees. And my dad, I can't do his accent, he's a Scot. He said, oh, no, dear, I don't want to pay for everyone's coffee in the queue. I just want 2. And at that, I went absolutely scarlet. And she went, no, that is right, it's only for 2. He said, oh, so we'll leave it, thanks, it's too expensive. And promptly turned around to walk out, which I look at all my friends, and all my friends were laughing their head off and open the sides because, you know, essentially he didn't want to get ripped off with the price of coffee. So I think that's rubbed off on me. I bring a flask into work every day, and whenever I go out selling, I take a flask with me, and I call it Stewie Bucks rather than Starbucks. So,
Well, can I just say that that's probably ruled out Starbucks as a sponsor of the Naked Founder podcast. But what the lesson that teaches you, what, look after the pennies and the pounds look after themselves?
I think it does, but also, you know, I think my father sees it as a coffee is, you know, it probably costs 5 or 6 pence to make. Don't be ripped off.
Yeah.
You know, don't be ripped off with things. You don't mind paying for nice things, but don't be ripped off for things.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think a lot of the mistakes that a lot of founders make is they spend money on the surroundings and the salaries and the cars before they've got an MVP and before they're cash generative. I'm going to introduce your sister, Jane Stuart Putnam, who joined Stuart Energy in 2024 as the Director of Strategic Partnerships. So, Jane Stuart Putnam, when your siblings and your dad launched Stuart Energy, and you were still working at the University of Bolton as it was then, did you feel you were missing out? Did you feel like you were the only member of the family not involved in the business back then?
No, not really. I think I've always grown up around power generation. That's what we've grown up with. My dad did it both overseas and in the UK. So I heard a lot about what was going on anyway, just from normal family conversations about how the business was going, how they wanted to grow it. But no, I didn't ever, because people would say, why don't you go into the family business? And everything's about timing, really.
There's a certain expectation, though, isn't there? If there's a family business, that everybody in the family will join that business. But it was all about the timing. 2024 came, the opportunity came for you to join the business. Did you need much persuading? And what was the reason for joining then?
Well, you know, in terms of, was it a easy decision? Was it difficult? Probably a little bit of both, I would say. Why did I join? I actually took some time out of the workplace. My niece had been poorly, so I actually had 3 months where I stepped away from the workplace and I was spending a lot of time with hospital visits. And actually, that time was really precious. Like, family and family values is at the heart of everything that I do, especially for my family. So having that time was really important. But it was a little bit difficult because I'd stepped away from working in higher education. I built a career for nearly 17 years. But ultimately, you know, sometimes you look at things, you reframe the decision, and it has been the right decision. It was the right time for me to step into the business and bring some of the skills and experience that I'd learned working in higher education into a workplace.
This is the Naked Founder podcast, and we heard from your brother Mark Stewart earlier. He mentioned actually that his first business was about finding golf balls, and then I think he used to use your garage to clean them.
That was the headquarters.
That was the headquarters. Your garage was the headquarters of the business. He's spoken about you.
Yes.
But how would you describe Mark as a founder and a driver within the business? Because you've grown up with your dad, Fred, who's still very much part of the business, but Mark is now probably more front and centre. How do you describe him?
Yeah, even as a young child, he was very...
Annoying?
On all family members at some stage. Ambitious, driven, very determined, obviously Mark and I, there's 7 years between us, with me being the older one, but actually him having all these businesses, because it wasn't just a golf ball business, there was a car mats business, there's been several businesses. We were always brought up, it was work or want. I've had a job since of the age of 11, but Mark had multiple businesses, albeit small ones, and actually he's just grown his love and been very entrepreneurial and grown that into the business that we have today.
People talk about imposter syndrome, and I often think women are more open about having imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I think most men have it but deny it. You know, when you hear Mark talk, he talks with knowledge and passion. At the end, you know, we were talking earlier, and you could almost hear like the emotion in his voice as well. Is imposter syndrome something you see in him, and only his sister could say that? And do you see it in yourself?
I don't actually see imposter syndrome. I think sometimes people don't give themselves enough credit for what they do, and I'd read something the other week and it was saying that imposter syndrome, people being really nervous, is it not your inner person giving you that round of applause? You know, is it nerves, is it excitement? It could be a bit of both, but I don't know. I mean, I suppose anyone who is good at the job could be a little bit critical. You always want to do something a little bit bigger, a little bit better. But I don't see that imposter syndrome in him. I mean, for myself, every day is a school day, so it's not necessarily imposter syndrome, but they've had a lot more experience in the business and I'm just open to learning. Sometimes it takes someone from a completely different sector to come into a business and ask questions that people may not have thought about. So we're developing other areas of the business with me bringing my own experience.
Every day's a school day.
Every day's a school day.
So Mark, I'm going to come back to you now. When I want to talk to you about Stuart Energy's values, you don't want people to leave you ever. Work second, family first.
Yeah, I think that goes back to our upbringing of maybe a mixed race upbringing where family is very essential to everything. Family is so important to Eastern culture as well as Western culture. We have this saying of family first, work second, because the family that we're creating here, the Stuart Energy family here, is just as important as our home family.
35 members of staff?
Yep, 35 members of staff. And we have a saying within the senior leadership team, we have 35 families to feed. And, you know, that's what it is. And family first, work second, because when your back's against the wall and you've got no one else to turn to, you can always rely on your family. And you're strong. The bonds you've made are strong, they're tough, they're together, the trust you have with each other. And it's that culture really that gets you through.
We've got a sign in the background, Sunday Times, best place to work.
Yeah.
2025, a small organisation, 8th.
That's right. Yeah.
If we look behind us, we'd see the 2024 sign,
That's right. Yeah.
which was 8th.
That's right.
Okay, and 2026, hopefully, you'll be above 8th as well. Okay,
Definitely.
what is your mantra when you walk in to that door every morning, Mark?
So really, it's family first, work second. Just touching on that, by the way.
Yeah.
I think we're the only company in power generation ever to do it back to back.
Yeah. You're like the Luke Littler of power generation.
Maybe. I'm
Yeah.
chubbier than him.
Yeah.
But literally, we need to be, for me, better than 8th. You know, we were delighted to get 8th in 2024 out of 6.9 million visitors. It's phenomenal. But to get 8th again, I was disappointed. Other parts of the team were like delighted. We got 8th, Mark, it's great. I said, it's not good. We've not improved since last year. So for me, it would only be good if it was, you know, better than 8th. It shows we've progressed.
Yeah, but that's the founder who's not willing to rest on his laurels.
No, yeah, of course, yeah.
And Mark, I want to talk to you about Stuart Energy's approach to sustainability. You've invested heavily in that, green power, reducing pollution. Clearly, there's always going to be a need for fossil fuel-based generators. How important is it that you invest in the new technology generators?
It's massively important for us, Chris. New technology to reduce carbon emissions in the UK is an absolute must. It's essential. But aside from that, the reduction of use of fossil fuels is huge. We have invested heavily in battery technology, but not small batteries, all the way up to 1 megawatt of power, which is a phenomenal size. There's not many people in the UK doing that. But we also look at different technologies within that. We're also heavily involved in a hydrogen project at the moment to do the hydrogen fuel for power generation. And really, R&D is the key to us. We spend a lot of money on R&D a year, a 7-figure sum a year, on finding solutions to environmentally friendly products.
But that shows to me that as a founder, you're looking to constantly, come up with new iterations of the business.
Yeah.
Because obviously, it's a bit like car manufacturers who only ever supply diesel vehicles and don't think about EV vehicles as well.
Yeah.
So is that the thing that keeps you awake at night?
Yes, I want to keep evolving the business, and I keep offering a product range which is, it's suitable for all. But really, the green credentials for us is really something I'm really passionate about. I really want to push our ESG further forward. James really heavily involved in our ESG as an organisation. But the battery pack scenario and also the carbon reduction products that we have to offer will get bigger and bigger. Because in the future, we're probably going to get taxed on our carbon emissions. And as a businesses, if we can offer that now at the start of the curve and be located within the sectors and within the area in the market first, we can have a good foothold to go and grow that business in areas.
I want to talk to you about your recruitment process, right, which I think is fascinating.
Okay.
You've got this 3-step recruitment process.
I do, yeah.
Just touch on 1 and 2, but the third part is really interesting because you go to a restaurant with the candidate.
I do.
And you watch the way they order food and they speak to the waitresses and waiters.
Yeah.
And if they're rude, you don't want them. So just explain that process.
So really, we used to recruit in a way where we'd have 1 or 2 interviews. It was great. The guys would come in. And I sat and I watched and I observe. I watch a lot, Chris, and I observe a lot.
I like people watching.
And and I noticed and I thought, what's really essential to our business? What is really the key things with our business and people going forward? Well, really, I don't really go out and sell on site anymore. I wish I did because I love that. But maybe my role is more strategic now. But if you remove me from this business, the business will still continue. Okay? And really, what's the 3 main important people within our business? The person who cleans our office, keeps us all free from disease, the cleaner. The sales guy to go out and see people. But also, the most important thing is we have machinery. Mechanical machinery. Mechanical machinery fails from time to time. It's just the nature of the beast. So when you've got heightened tensions of a site manager or project manager on site and he's at his extreme stress levels, if you get a guy turned up to fix that service engineer, which is rude or polite or doesn't know the right things to say and de-escalate the situation, you're going to be not in business very long. So I changed our interview process to be a little bit different. And I think when we first started to do that, my dad thought I was absolutely potted and lost my marbles. But he said, okay, son, give it a whirl, see what you think, see what happens. So I did. So the first process is I'll sit in the corner of the interview and say nothing. And 3 other guys will interview the candidate. If it's an engineering role and they pass that first interview, we'll go into a practical interview where people who are going to work with, they either fettle a machine so it's got a problem, and they say, right, troubleshoot that machine. That's your practical part of the interview. And I sit there and I watch. I don't say anything, I just watch again. And they actually probably think I'm the T-boy in the corner, because I'm in the corner generally. The third stage of the interview, we take them to a local hotel or restaurant, and we ask them, and we meet them there for the third part of the interview, and it's an informal chat. And we dress it as an informal chat, but I'm there then, and that's where I come in. And I'll say to them, for example, it was a guy called Charlie who was having interviewed. Charlie, I'll have a club sandwich and chips with a side of green veg, please. Can you order it for me, please? In fact, you're going to order for the whole table. And it's not a test to see if you can remember what the order is. It's a test to see how he interacts with the waitress or waiter. It's a way to see how he orders. How is he polite? Does he speak to them well? If there's a problem with the food, then they don't have that. How does he handle that objection? And it's only then, if they do the right process, do I take them on? Because being polite and being true is really important to me.
You've got a really low churn rate, but you can pass, stage 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But if you're rude to the waiters or don't say please or thank you, that's it. You don't want them in Stuart Energy.
I don't want them in Stuart Energy because, I think people fail a lot in businesses, and this is my own personal opinion, that they have a guy who is a great sales guy, top sales guy, but he's not a nice guy.
Yeah.
That ruins the culture for everybody.
Yeah.
And actually, you don't want them guys in your business. You don't want them in your business at all.
Internal terrorists, some people call them.
Yeah, internal terrorists. I mean, there's a great saying that the British Special Forces use, the British military uses. If you had a guy who's at the peak of his abilities, but he's untrustworthy, you couldn't trust him with your wife. Do you want him? No. They would want a guy who's probably lower middle abilities, but you could trust him with your family and kids. That's who they want in there because they can train them for that.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is something we take into our business, where we recruit for attitude, we train for skill.
Attitude is the word that just came to mind.
That's it.
You can employ anybody. You can look at their qualifications, but you can't teach attitude.
No.
You've either got it or you haven't. You started Stuart Energy with your dad and your brother as well. And it would be wrong to say you're in the shadow of your dad, but your dad had the pedigree of having set up and exited a previous business.
Yeah.
Do you feel now that, like, nearly 10 years on, do you feel like the dynamic has changed? And do you feel like, because your dad comes into the office a couple of days a week?
Yeah, he does. He still keeps an eye on things. Listen, he'll always be the boss.
Yeah.
I'll always defer to him. We'll always defer to him about decisions within the business. He does let us get on with it. He likes to keep a hold of the reins. One hand on the reins, I would say. We've got the hands on the reins as well.
Because you're a multi-million-pound turnover business now, growing quick.
Yeah, we are going fast.
Yeah.
And he likes to keep his hand on the reins. But, you know, I've noticed over the past 2 years, we'll look at a project and he'll, instead of saying, no, we're not going to do that, what do you think about this, Mark? And he'll ask our opinion. He never used to do that before. I think now he's getting older, he's coming up to 80 this year. He's still involved in the business. He's still a big figurehead in the business. But he understands that it's now us going forward, growing the business. And he's got to really, not take a step back, but be there to help shape us and guide us. And
What's the long-term vision for Stuart Energy?
long-term vision for Stuart Energy is, we would love this business to continue legacy. I'd love my children to come into the business. You know, I'd really like to grow the business to international status. And actually, I have one goal in mind, to be the #1 power generation business within Europe.
Well, in the background, you identified by LDC
Yeah.
as being like one to watch, a rising star as well. So I think you're doing all the main things right. We always end the Naked Founder podcast with a question, right? And the question, it's a tradition which comes out of the US, where the outgoing president will write a letter to the incoming president as well. If you were writing a letter to yourself, or you were writing a letter to another founder based on your experiences at the start of that journey, what would you write?
I thought you would ask that question, so I've written one.
You've written an answer. Okay.
You want to hear it?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
I do.
One second,
Okay.
let me go and get it.
Okay.
Dear Mark, congratulations. You've reached chapter 35 in your life, and you've taken the leap of faith to start your own business. Over the next 8 years, there's going to be a lot of tears, a lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of laughs. Pretty much like a roller coaster. But that's okay. It shapes you into the business leader you are today. A bit of advice. Be true to yourself and others. Be kind, honest and thoughtful. If you make a mistake, it's okay. Own it. Don't shy away from it, but fix it. Don't let egos ruin relationships, and don't try and fix the others that don't want to be fixed. Align yourself with the people with the same mindset as you. When you're speaking in public or giving presentations, if you make a mistake, that's okay, because there's only you that know the script. Be mindful that it's you that shapes the culture of the business. You are the business culture breeder. If the business culture is flawed or fractured, fix it. It's your fault. Be grateful for the small things. The small things make those numbers big things. Do not listen to the people around you which are negative, that say, you can't deliver this project, you can't do a certain thing. Go for it. Give it your all. Just do it. Go to every networking event possible you can go to, because you never know where it'll lead to. Contacts are everything. Lastly, the early days, the long nights, the early starts, the tears, the blood, the sweat, they're the good days. Have fun with yourself, Mark. Because one day it'll all be over.
you know, you can see just listening to it, listening to you, it comes from here.
Yeah, of course.
And that's you being authentic as well. Mark Stewart, thanks for inviting us in and thanks for taking part in the Naked Founder podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please tell your friends and family, listen to it, press the subscribe button. And my name, as always, is Chris Maguire.